gonna show them anything, but I just need you here just in case. I'll be back. I'll be here too.
Good afternoon and welcome to Let's Talk Easing into Change, WCSC's talk show with a purpose featuring 4 E's to engage our communities for education, positive experience, and empowerment. The Women's Coalition of St. Croix is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Our mission is to support and empower people impacted by violence. Let's talk. I am the co-host, Debra Benjamin, Communications Coordinator for the Women's Coalition of St. Croix, and my lovely esteemed co-hosts are Liz Smith, our child counselor.
Stewart.
Liz
Stewart.
I'm Smith.
And Will Smith is running the board.
I have put Will Smith and Liz Smith together and made Liz Smith. Look at that, a whole new person. And our child counselor, Liz Stewart, and our
Crisis counselor.
crisis counselor, I was about to say communications counselor. Crisis counselor, Sheelene Gums. Yeah, today, gotta push the teeth in properly. Okay, so we are very happy to be here with you today. Happy June. It is our monthly show, as I said before, and it is our 1-year anniversary. So send little party hats, little whoop, 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 you know, the crowd goes wild, all that good stuff, while my 2 esteemed colleagues introduce themselves and say hello and all that good stuff.
So, good afternoon. I am Liz, the child counselor. And it's exciting to think we've been doing this for a year.
I'm saying,
I can't believe it.
it's been a year. Can you imagine? It's been a whole year.
No.
What? It's been a whole year. Wow, that says a lot. Time flies. And we all forgive Debbie. It's hot outside. Everybody's suffering from some kind of heat, something.
Yes.
Nobody's brain is working quite well today. You know, the place is just hot. You know, and but on a serious note, there's a lot of people that have been complaining about having nausea, you know, having headaches and stuff like that. And those are the onset signs of heat stroke. So please hydrate, people. Hydrate. Drink as much water, coconut water, if you could find it. Drink it so that we can be healthy, we can stay healthy, because this heat ain't normal.
No,
this heat is not normal.
and watch out for your neighbors.
Yes.
You know, our elders who walk to and fro to the
Yeah.
grocery store, to the clinic, etc. Watch out for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Wear a hat or headgear if you can. If you're going to be out in that blazing sun. Seek out shade wherever you can and take it easy. I know sometimes we feel the need that we have to rush, but in this heat and with that sun, take your time.
Yeah.
Take your time, please.
Yes.
So it's June. It's Caribbean American Heritage Month. It is LGBTQIA+. Got all the alphabets in there. Pride Month. It is on June 15th, World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. So we have a lot to recognize and to focus on in terms of causes and themes for the month. Spaces and places where people shouldn't have to worry about violence. All of our spaces and places are that way, but there are special and unique challenges that come for the elderly, for the LGBTQIA+ community, and us as Caribbean peoples have a history of generational trauma, enslavement, oppression, many issues that we have had to triumph over and work through, and are still doing our best to grow and thrive beyond. So in our celebratory mood for our 1-year anniversary show, whoop, 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 we encourage you to call us at 340-773-3636 if you have a comment or a question, and we're gonna chat and reminisce and bring attention to all of the causes that I mentioned a little while ago. So let's start with elder abuse awareness, if I can.
Elder abuse is something that, you know, we don't really talk a lot about. We don't focus on a lot because, you know, it kinda goes with the, they're supposed to know how to take care of themselves thing, but they don't always get taken care of. And we have a history of having very strong elders. And so most people, because if something is wrong with them, and I'm experiencing that right now, if something is wrong with them, they're quick to say, I'm okay, right? So if things happen, they don't say it.
And I don't need your help.
I don't need your help. I want to maintain my independence, especially when they're going through like certain situations in life. They want to feel like they can hold on to their independence. But pay attention. And elder abuse usually is somebody taking advantage of just that, right? Whether it be physically, whether it be emotionally, you know, mostly financially. You know, that happens a lot. You know, they're there, they can't move around, they're tired, they're gonna ask you to do a whole lot of things, and unfortunately there are some people that use that as an opportunity to take advantage of them, right? And so they'll go to the grocery store and they're on a fixed income, they'll use their fixed income to help themselves, you know, which then causes the elder to have stress, but understanding too that one of the biggest problems in elder abuse is that if that person is my caretaker, I really don't feel like I can report them. Right? Because then who's gonna look after me?
Yeah.
Right? I can't move around, I don't see the same way I did, I can't drive anymore, and so if I say something, am I going to now be stuck? You know?
Yeah.
I think too, a part of that is the isolation that a lot of our elders and seniors may feel. And if it's just one person who is checking in on me, who is bringing me something to eat or listening to me when I have something to say, or even when I don't, if I'm afraid that I can call, and it's just this one person that I have to depend on. If I recognize, admit, talk about the advantage that's being taken, the abuse that's happening, then I'm gonna be all by myself, and I have nobody to look after me, right? So isolation in a couple of ways are also a part of what elders have to deal with, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, not being able to drive or feeling uncomfortable to drive. So not being able to get out to do the normal things that they did before. And again, in this heat, having to walk to the grocery store, and I admire everybody who does it. Walking to the grocery store, walking back, you know, wanting to be independent, yet beginning to be concerned about that independence.
Right, and the independence being taken away.
Yeah.
You know, and caregiving is hard, right? So it gets frustrating, and sometimes, you know, balancing out how your whole life changes as a caregiver. I mean, I do a caregiver support group, and so the changes that happened, you know, and then watching the deterioration of an elderly person, and you know the psychological effects that has on both the caregiver and the person giving care, you know, getting the care, you know, it's very, very hard, and we don't really deal with emotions very well sometimes. You know, how do I say I'm frustrated when I know I need to look after you, and not realizing that then my words become very, very harsh, and you know, verbal abuse comes very, very easily at that point, because you know, you intentionally doing this, whereas the elder may be sick. You know, there may be onset signs of dementia, there may be signs of Alzheimer's that are coming in, maybe Parkinson's, Asperger's, a whole lot of stuff may be happening. They may have had a stroke and it affected their brain, but they can't tell you, you know, because I'll tell you something that I tell my group all the time. We don't realize that everything is a learned behavior, apart from breathing and sucking. We all learn to walk, we all learn to chew, we all learn to go to the bathroom. There's 67 steps. Did you know there were 67 steps to go to the bathroom without watching yourself? Right.
No.
You know, we learn to do a whole lot of stuff. You know, everything is a learned behavior. So when parts of your brain is affected, or as you get older and you can't access all of the things in your brain, then those things become problematic, you know? And it can frustrate you, which means you as the elder is also going to have an attitude, but then there's going to be a response, you know? And so we need to be very, very aware, pay attention to what they're going through, even while we're giving care to them.
Absolutely. I think as a caregiver also, the idea of self-care
Mm.
and the necessity for it, in particular when you are responsible for someone else,
Yeah.
is really, really key. Aside from the communication between you and the person that you're giving the care to, when you are stressed out, when you are exhausted, you don't have enough to be able to give properly and well to another person. So as a caregiver, it is very, very important for you to have your own support system. As you are being a support system to someone else, you need one too.
Mhm.
And it's very, very important for you to recognize when it's come to be too much.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, can you give information about your caregiver support group, how they connect to that? Because that seems like a vital way for them to connect with others that are going through the same thing, caring for an elder.
So Department of Human Services, the Family Caregivers Program, Ms. Arlene Evans O'Reilly is in charge of that program. And they're through DHS. So, you know, if
Okay.
you give them a call, I can't remember their extension right now, but 712-2100, is it 2100? 7100. 7100. And then if you ask for the Family Caregivers Program, then they'll give you the phone number. But they do offer support. We have support groups twice a month. And it's a wonderful way for you to be able to connect with other people who are going through the exact same thing, right? And not recognizing, because a lot of times caregiving also puts that person who's giving care in isolation, because it's hard
Yes.
for other family members to deal with the changes that are happening, right? And so
Yeah.
that's the reason why there's a support group. And unfortunately, caregivers, a lot of times die before the people that they're giving care to, because they stress out. Everything in your life changes at that point.
Yeah, it's an exhausting labor of love. And labor is just as strong as love in that statement, because it is work. And it's work that you gladly do. Sometimes it's put upon you because the other avenues of support are just not there for the person, whether it's family, friends, or some combination thereof. So especially if you are the only person doing it or the only two people doing it, definitely check out the caregiver support group, because having your own support system is key to being able to not only take care of yourself, but take care of that person that you are giving care to as well, particularly if it's an elder. Yeah, they need you to be good, and you need to be good.
And you need to be.
You need to, you know, make sure that your own life has what it needs.
Yep, that's very important.
Yeah. So we touched a little bit on some types of abuse that happen to elders, more so than other types, and one that, Liz, I remember you definitely agreeing with Sheelene on was the financial aspect of it.
Yeah, the financial abuse, the senior has their set income, but they've always been a helper. And the caregiver, in their frustration, because possibly they can't take an outside job, or they've got to take care of all the bills, often hold the money from the senior, spend money on things that are not for the senior, that they're caring for, take their money from them. It's a rough thing. I know you've dealt with more cases of that than I have, but.
Yeah, I mean, because sometimes it's, you know, the person that has been voluntold to become the caregiver. In many cases, that person, you know, does right by the senior. But then there's some who nobody else wants to deal with it, and then this person's voluntold, and because they're voluntold, then they're like, well, you know, I'm gonna help myself. You're gonna need to pay me for this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That
And, you know, I spend it, and if the person that's giving care happens to be somebody that has a habit, or a behavior issue, or a mental illness, you know, that turns into a whole lot of other stuff, you know, and so it's unfortunate, but it happens, you know, and so that's the reason why if you're a family and you have an elder, that the family needs to be part of the whole story. Everybody needs to
Amen.
help.
Yeah.
You don't just leave them there. Yes, they may get miserable, disgusting, because they're going through changes in their life. Nobody doesn't want to be completely aware of all the things that they want to do, you know. If I'm accustomed to being, if I'm accustomed to being independent, I want to remain independent. If I'm the person that you come to, and you've come to your whole life, and now all of a sudden you can't talk to me, I don't feel necessary anymore. My role in your life has changed. It's gonna upset me because now I don't feel wanted, I don't feel needed. You know,
I'm
that
a burden.
I'm a burden to you, and it
Yeah.
triggers a whole lot of stuff.
That
You
burden
know.
is key.
Yeah.
And we do have elder care services here in the VI, isn't that correct?
Yeah, some-
Continuum care?
Mhm.
Is it continuum care provide elder care services?
Yes, there's quite a number of them. I'm not sure if Herbert Grigg is completely open, I know part of it was, there's also Turning Point. And there are a number of, other agencies that, you know, they, DHS as well. And they have a number of other agencies that do provide care. But it's we have a large and growing, because we live in Langa people, right? So we're having a larger, older population. And so because of that, the need for these services are becoming more necessary.
Yes.
One of the statistics that I've seen lately is about how the fastest growing population is the older
Mhm.
population, and that we're living longer. A lot of us are having to work longer because,
Financially, we
Financial-
gotta work longer.
exactly,
Yeah.
financial challenges. So, we want, our seniors to be healthy as they possibly can and to know that they're a valuable part of our communities. And so remember, you know, sometime today, if you come in contact with one of your honored elders, make sure you give them a hug and let them know how much you appreciate them and their wisdom and their guidance and their experience and the love that they have for you and that they freely give to you. And even if they're a little bit miserable, you know, love them anyway. Love them anyway.
Yeah, because they need that, and I know for myself, I want that for myself as
Mhm.
I become more, as my mother loves to say, decrepit. It's my mother's word. You know, that I want to know that I have people that are willing to, if nothing else, just have a conversation with me,
Right.
you know? Talk about the issues of the day, that I still have a significant role in the world.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like also because of the fact that that's a large part of our population, a large part of our history
Mm-hmm.
is kept with them
Mm-hmm.
and through them. And so just having conversations about the way they grew up and the differences between now and then,
Mhm.
because some of them, there were no computers. The government was the military, I think, was the only place that had a computer when they were small.
Right.
So, you know, and their phone was something that hung on the wall
Mhm.
or was next to the bed,
Landline.
on the nightstand in the
Mhm.
bedroom. you know?
Landlines, they were a
Yeah,
thing.
you had one phone in the house and it had a cord.
Yes.
And you had to press buttons or
Rotary.
or-
Rotary dial.
or dial in order to, you know, so even hearing these stories can be fun because you have no frame of reference for it, some of our young people, so it's a totally different world, and they embody that that balance between the two because they're now in this world where technology is taken for granted a lot of the time, you know, and a lot of them, you know, there are grandmas who code.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there are grandpas who know about software and who have podcasts
Mhm.
and who do all these wonderful, amazing things. So, you know, they're really a very special group because they have knowledge of both of these seemingly
Right.
paths that don't seem to connect, but they actually do. You know, so love up on them a little bit. It's also LGBTQIA plus Pride Month. And this is Let's Talk Easing into Change, just so you know. And if you have a question or a comment, you can call us on the phone, or you can chat with us on YouTube Live. We're on YouTube now, and we will be sharing the link for this show on our Facebook page. So our Facebook people, don't think we, you know, abandoned you totally, because we did not. It's just more people have access to YouTube, and so we want to give more people an opportunity to engage with us on the show. Let's talk easing into change. So if we could touch a little bit on victims and survivors of violence who identify as LGBTQIA plus and services that are available for them. The coalition offers services to all people, regardless of their gender identity or their gender or their sexual orientation, their age, their race. Our services are for people impacted by violence, and that is all of us.
It's a safe place.
Yes, and you're an individual first.
Yes.
Yes.
And so that is something that I like to say, because for me, all the labels and additions are not as important as you as a person. And so we try to make sure that that is front and center all the time. I can see you as you are, who you are in front of me at the time, and it's not based on anybody else. Every session is based on you. And I know Liz does that with the little people because they tell me that she does that with them. You know, when you see somebody who's going through domestic violence, and you know, it's pregnant, so we're gonna talk about it. There's a lot of stigma still about, you know, people and their gender orientation or their sexual orientation, you know, and it bothers me because that means that you're missing the person still, right? And is that an excuse for you to miss the person? Because when it comes down to it, are we still wanting to find a reason to not help? You know, the bystander syndrome. Does it give me an excuse to not be aware? Does it give me an excuse to not talk to you, to not be kind, to create more helplessness, to create more hopelessness? Because if I don't feel that I have a support and nobody sees me as me, I'm not gonna reach out, you know?
Yeah. And my experience starts to feel like it's just mine.
Right.
I have no one who can relate or who can offer me support, and that makes for major feelings of hopelessness. And if you have the addition of the fear of being outed or of being rejected by your family or your friends because of your own personal life choices that you have the right to make, where do you feel like you can turn at that point?
Right.
You know, so there are services available for people who have experienced violence, especially domestic and sexual violence, whether it's in a same-sex relationship or in an opposite-sex relationship, or regardless of gender or age.
Can I, as you're saying that, not just physical violence either,
No.
because being yelled at and called names is a form of violence.
Yeah.
Those scars, the ones that come from the
The
emotional,
inside,
yeah,
are worse.
they're harder to heal.
And for our children, the fears in the family around their children being LGBTQ plus, and
however they identify.
however they identify, and the not understanding. And I have the experience of parents who they want them to change. They wanna, you just go to church, it'll get better. Not recognizing that you're asking someone to not be themselves. You're asking them to not be, I love that, all of who they are. And so talking to someone, to get some help, to feel okay about yourself. How do you approach? For the kids, I have helped talk to parents to help understand what's going on and get the conversation going regarding what are the concerns, what are the fears.
In a safe space.
In a safe space.
That safety, I think, is key also to being able to express yourself and to ask for the help that you need in the way that you need it. We're gonna continue with our conversation today for our 1-year anniversary show. Happy
Whoop, whoop.
birthday! That's right. So let's talk
Happy
easing
birthday to you.
This is Let's Talk Easing Into Change, WCSC's monthly radio show, and we will be back shortly. Thank you for joining us.
It's full of cheese.
Sometimes it's me.
What is,
If I'm lucky.
what is it? Yeah, I did.
Oh.
I can see it.
Are they able to tell you anything yet, Ms. Stubbs, about how she's doing?
She's, on the ward, she's got IVs and stuff like that right now, so.
For the dehydration?
Is she not drinking enough, or is there something else going on? Is
Something
it
else
the
going on.
intestines, that's what's causing the dehydration? It's not good, no way not.
Basically, the ads that when y'all are talking don't rock out. And then this at the end of the week, all of our clients get a sheet that shows every time that their ads play. And so if we have a show. and
Really?
the ads
Because we don't get that.
Do you pay for it?
Yeah.
Oh, well, then you should be getting one.
So who do
I think
talk
it's in your
about?
bill.
We have an annual contract that we do.
Okay, because it should look something like this. Yeah.
But since we have the annual contract, they're not sending us a bill. So,
Who's your,
Jonathan.
Jonathan, yeah. Okay, well.
so that's who I need to talk to about that?
Will's like,
What's it called?
So like this is the invoice, it's the invoice, right? So this is the invoice for the Beeson Hill Rehabilitation Center, right? And it's showing each time that they're,
So since we don't get an invoice, and we get the.
so yeah, so what you want is the invoice that has the playtimes on it.
Playtimes, that's the one I was trying to.
playtime, that sounds like fun.
But I think now, since we've got all these new live shows running,
You have more live shows now, huh? Really? Any other nonprofits have live shows?
Yeah, so, the animal shelter was the one that was today. That's every week. Yeah, so animal shelter comes in and sometimes they bring animals with them, which is super fun.
Yeah.
Because they record it too on a video, and I get to see puppies sometimes.
Oh, that's so awesome.
So, yeah, they're nonprofit, and then we have this show called Fresh Air, and it's just, some guys that are business owners here, and they talk about WAPA and, they had this guy from New York last week, that was supposedly one of these big directors for territories and using, and he's like in with WAPA and stuff like that. And Jed, the host last week, he was quite nice. I mean, he was just kind of like, when are we gonna see change? When are we gonna see change? When is it? And I was like, well, it's hard to tell people who've been waiting for 6 years that it's gonna be another
6 years?
Yeah, and he was like, this is irresponsible, like what, and the guy, you could just see the guy like squirm, like in your mind's eye. He was like, oh, well, he's like, next year, right? We're gonna see you next year. And then he's like, like, what a politician, And I was like, and Jed was on him, but he was on him very respectfully, he was
But
very.
holding his feet to the fire.
But yeah, he was still kind of like, it's you guys that are sitting up there twiddling your fingers, and we're not getting.
No, you're not looking for real answers, it doesn't feel like.
The expense that we as the people living here have to pay
Right.
versus somebody in Delaware
Exactly.
is insane.
Exactly.
And it can be changed, and
It
it
should be
requires
changed.
people being held accountable.
Exactly.
And they're not. So, okay, this is the last one.
I'm thinking wind and solar. We got all of that we can tolerate.
And water.
Yeah.
And how agriculturally, independent we could be on this island. It's summer all the time. We should be just growing crops out.
Yeah.
I mean, just poof, 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 poof.
Exactly.
And,
Nobody should be doing
and we have this giant oil refinery that just sits there and not getting used.
Yeah.
And I'm like, tear it down, put some farms up, and let's be sufficient.
I want them to give those man-cap businesses to all the homeless people.
Right.
They could be,
I'm telling you.
Right.
Give them to community first.
All right, you all ready?
yes. And we are back with Let's Talk Easing Interchange, WCSC's monthly radio show, and it is our 1-year birthday. So we would have one candle on our cake. And the crowd goes wild. And we thank you so much for joining us on this journey for the year, for all the guest experts who joined us here to spread information and engagement with the community, to our JKC family for all their help,
Yes.
and for the opportunity to have this uplifting hour of information and experience. So thank you, everybody, for being a part of this, and we hope that you will continue to join us for Let's Talk Easing Interchange as we discuss issues and do the 4 E's: experience, education, engagement.
Empowerment.
Empowerment.
That one.
That's a good one.
Yes.
That is a very good one. So we've been talking about June and how Caribbean American Heritage Month, LGBTQIA plus Pride Month, and Elder Abuse Awareness Day, which is on June 15th, are the major causes that are being promoted this month. And I wondered if we could talk a little bit about, we've touched on elder abuse, we've touched on LGBTQIA and the victims and survivors of violence in those groups. And I wondered if we could talk a little bit about Caribbean American Heritage Month and also mention the Caribbean Studies Association's 47th annual conference that is going on right now at UVI. And it's for 5 days. It started on Monday, and there's some excellent plenaries that they're doing. There's a lot of amazing presentations from people all over the Caribbean. We've got delegates coming in from all over the world, and we welcome them, and all the dignitaries and all the visitors that have come to join us for the conference. We had a really amazing conversation with Dr. Chenzira Davis Kahina, who is the director of the Caribbean Studies Association for this year, and that will be up on our SoundCloud channel very, very soon. But I wondered if we could, ladies, talk a little bit about Caribbean American heritage and how it relates to the work that we do at the Coalition and ending violence for our community.
Yes.
Woo. That's a lot of work. Because, you know, the Virgin Islands, you know, like the Virgin Islands of the United States, is in such a unique position, right? Because we happen to be the only Caribbean American place, right?
Yes.
Well, no, Puerto Rico as well. Puerto Rico as well. But you know, when you look at the bigger Caribbean, which would include South America, you know, the Pan American region, right? You know, there's so most of them aren't American, most of them are independent. So because we still have ownership, you know, by the U.S., it does put us in a very peculiar place because the migration that came through here, right? And the fact that we've had so many different people that have put their foot in the pot in terms of ownership for the Virgin Islands, the residual effects, you know, from slavery to different people's beliefs and cultures to the things that were strongest for them. I mean, and we have all of those that get incorporated as it goes along. That's why half our streets are Danish, half our building structure is Spanish, we have French-looking places, you know, all of these things are in there. When you look at them, all of these things are incorporated into, you know, where we're at and how we are. Unfortunately, the bad stuff came too, which was, you know, slavery, how we treat each other, the mentality that started to get developed, and even as we're working through it and out of it, because that is the purpose of, you know, talking about the things that are uncomfortable, you know, things that we start to call culture, pretty much is trauma, you know what I mean? But we don't know what to do with it, so we gotta call it something else, you know, and so even in those things and in, you know, understanding why we do what we do, you know, like I was reading something yesterday, I don't remember which, I think it was in Cecily Tyson's book, where she was talking about the fact that you do things and you don't even know why you do them, right? To paraphrase what she had said, she's like, she couldn't understand why they were cooking in a big pot and it was only for 4 people, right? And that's because traditionally the family was big, so when it was a little family, they still cooked in the big pot.
In the big pot.
You know, and so, but it wasn't that you would cook the food wrong if you cooked in a smaller pot, that was just a habit, right?
For some, that was the only pot you had.
Yeah.
Also, you know.
Back then, yeah.
Yeah, because my grandmother, she didn't know how to make a little bit of anything, because she was accustomed to cooking in this big iron pot.
Right.
That was the only one they had.
Right.
You know, so.
And even when times have changed, you know, we still hold on to those old things. Unfortunately, the good things came with the bad things. You know what I mean? And so the things that, you know, one of the old adages for the Caribbean, and it's around the Caribbean, just not the American Caribbean, but then compounded with the fact that slavery in America did also impact on the Virgin Islands, you know, because we talk about the Virgin Islands, we're here, how it impacted it as well. Even to, you know, how we view, how we look. You know, I'm going to be outside, I'm going to look good even if I'm starving. You know, we're going to talk about the bad things as it pertains to this, but not to that, right? Learning to keep secrets, turning to divide up how we look at ourselves and how we represent ourselves and what was embarrassing from what wasn't embarrassing. You know, and all of those come down based on the images and, you know, the things that they told us about. And as much damage as it caused underneath, we still hold on to a lot of those things.
This concept of shame, which we've talked about a lot on this show,
Mhm.
because it is so prevalent in this community and a lot of the Caribbean communities, about what happens in the family stays in the family,
Mhm.
regardless of if it's tearing the family apart. You know, a victimization is often a part of that, and how we look at secrets,
Mhm.
you know, as a good thing always, and you know, it means that nobody knows, so something bad can't happen because nobody knows. But guess what? Something bad is happening because nobody knows.
Right.
And so the importance of being able to speak your truth and to get the help that you need comes.
There is, and it's interesting as you talk about that, there, and maybe it's just me, there's no shame in being community.
No,
And in community, part of that is reaching out
exactly.
and supporting one another, helping one another, not, you know, giving the side eye because someone in your family, broke the law,
Right,
hurt somebody.
right,
No, what can we do to help you
right,
and your family to heal from this? That's part of being community.
right.
I just recently heard that there was somewhere in the States that they did an experiment where instead of having the police respond to emergency calls for help, they sent out community agencies and people who had been trained on how to do crisis intervention.
Mhm.
And it was a roaring success. I wish I had more information. It just came into my mind because I just heard it yesterday. So maybe next go around we'll have some more information on that. But the police handled the high, like murders and the things that they needed to be there for legal purposes. But crisis intervention community agencies handled the other things, and the feedback and the solutions and the healing that came from that. They're still examining it, but the preliminary results claim it as a success. Because a lot of the time, what people need more so than policing is support.
Yes.
And not the kind that involves handcuffs or jail time or the things that do not, that are just punishment. They're in no way related really to rehabilitation or to justice, which is supposed to be what it's all about. I know we put a little bit on course, but this is all a part of the Caribbean American heritage, if you ask me, because you know, this idea of law enforcement with police came out of getting slaves that had escaped, enslaved peoples that had escaped back to the slavers. So,
But you know what is interesting about what you just said, and it totally is connected to Caribbean American Heritage Month, right? Is that it used to be what happened before, and then they stopped it. Because there's a lot of communities in Africa that do that. When you do something wrong, everybody in the community comes in, they put you in a circle and everybody talk to you, right?
Yes.
But
Yes.
also, we talk about it. Because we always say it takes a village to raise a child, which means that the healthy village, which means that everybody comes in and they talk to you about it, right? So it's the same concept, but then, you know, we switched out, you know what I mean? And we made it somebody else's job, right? Instead of it being our job, and we lost the village,
Yes.
and we lost the village, we renamed it the community, and then we started talking about the community. But we lost the village, which was the community to begin with, right? You see these movement words that I don't really like a lot, right? And so because of that, that is the way that we should be able to heal within ourselves. But that all takes us having conversation. We have to talk, and not just about the bad stuff. We have to talk about the good stuff. We can't say, oh, she's a bad girl and she hot because she 13, she 14 and she's having sex, and not talk about the fact that she got exposed to sex, but we're going to talk about her, but not the person who introduced her to sex, right?
Yes, or the other person.
Right.
In that
Right.
encounter.
Exactly. You know, I mean, and we have to be outright honest, right? And understanding that a lot of that came from, if going back to the slave mentality, if you say something then you'll get hurt, you know, you mean you're not going to rat on the next person, and you're trying to save yourself because you don't want the lashes, you don't want to starve, you don't want to be put in the iron box, you don't want any of that, so you're going to keep to yourself. But when they came together and the village was there, everybody looked after everybody, and we really need to get back to the looking after everybody.
I see us do it for a baby that's
Sure.
coming. You know, I see us
Yes.
do it when there's a funeral, you know, when someone has transitioned, and we really do need to get back to it for all things. You know, when there is crisis in one family, crisis affects us all. Clemma has a saying that she says a lot. I've heard her say, it might be my child today, but it might be your child tomorrow. So you have to care regardless of whose child it is, because that is a community member. And community does equal family. Community does equal friends and neighbors and all the people who are affected by the things that affect you individually and collectively. You know?
Right.
So we do need to get back to that. And one of the things that I thought about when I was thinking about right before we got here, full disclosure, right before we got here, I thought about for Caribbean American Heritage Month is so many legacies of trauma, but also of connections, as Ms. Guns and Liz were saying, unity and triumphs over enslavement, institutional racism, and other forms of oppression. And although these may be movementy words, they're also actually accurate ways to describe what we're going through. Institutional racism means all the institutions, the governments, the agencies, the politicians, everything that has been put in place that's supposed to work for all people was really only designed to work for particular people, and that's why it's institutionalized racism, you know? And oppression is everything that keeps us from thriving, from growing, from being equal and having equitable, so that everybody has, according to their needs, services and
Opportunity.
and that
Opportunity.
yes, exactly.
Right. So if you're 6'1", you could reach the top of the mango tree, but me at 5'1" can't.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So give me a stick.
Yeah, so you might need a ladder or a cherry picker, you know, that basket to put you in, right? I might just need a small little cherry picker because I want that mango all the way at the top that is right now. You know, and so looking at the way that we provide services for people, I feel like in our history, you know, in African villages, they didn't just have this uniform one way of helping everybody. they really, because of the talking that they did, as Ms. Gunn said, they designed the support for that particular family or that particular person at that particular time. And that's equity, and that's what we need more of, you know, as we think about how we're going to grow and thrive and live equally and with what we need to be healthy villages. This is Let's Talk Easing into Change, WCSC's monthly radio show. It is our 1-year anniversary. And we are so grateful that we've had this opportunity to have this wonderful space to engage with you safely. And some of the shows that we've done over the course of the year have really touched on a lot of the things that people don't like to talk about, those difficult conversations, as Ms. Guns was saying before, and the opportunity that Liz was talking about to bring it out into the open, because secrets can and do lead to fatalities.
They're like fish that you didn't put in the right place to store them, right?
Yes.
You caught it, and then you didn't.
So it's festering.
It's
In other words,
festering.
It's rotten. It's rotting. And you know what rotten fish smell like?
Yeah.
You
Not
don't
good.
want it. You don't
No,
want it.
Not at all.
Yeah, you can call us with a comment or a question at 773-FMFM. That's 340-773-3636. And hello to our YouTube people. Thank you for joining us. This show will be on our YouTube channel, and it's also going to be on our Facebook channel. We will post it up, and we're going to have the sound, just the audio. For you podcast-loving people, we will have the sound on our SoundCloud channel as well, which is WCSTX. Our YouTube channel is WCSTX. Our Facebook channel is WCSTX. But our Instagram channel is WCSTXVI. Yeah, so you can reach us any of those ways. So I wasn't here for the show that you guys did on domestic violence with men from the virtual forum that you did for DVAM month, which was in October. Can you talk a little bit about how that went and what some of the things that came out of it that you deem as important?
Well, one of the things that was very, very important is that we do have men that are victims of domestic violence. I don't know why we keep acting like if it doesn't happen. You know, it happened. Well, I mean, we act as if a lot of things don't happen, and which is unfortunate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We can't pick and choose the bad things that we want to deal with. You know, one of the reasons why, even in the forum and the people coming forward and the people's willingness to come forward, you know, it's the fact that there's this stigma behind men being victims of domestic violence, and they name them off and they call them all kind of things, and you know, we ignore the fact that men have emotions too. You know, and so sometimes because of their fear of what's going on, you know, they don't say anything. So one of the things that the forum really brought out is this can happen, and I may hide it because I don't know how you're going to treat me, and so I'll suffer in silence until I get to my breaking point. You know what I mean? And it's unfortunate that that happens, because we really do need to have a healthy community with everybody involved. You know, we don't need to continue to raise a village of people where violence is the answer. First of all, we really need to learn to just talk. You know, we don't have to revert to violence in order to get that done. Communication is important.
And to talk,
Yes.
not to yell at one another, not to, learning to calm so that you can have the conversation that you want to have, that your point in
Right.
the conversation is made and heard.
Right.
But if I'm yelling at you, you're not listening to me.
Oh, and I definitely am not listening if your voice tone goes up. So I'm gonna miss the whole conversation anyway.
Yeah.
You know, it's gonna be disregarded, and unfortunately, we do that. I mean, a lot of, talking about the Caribbean American heritage and how that plays into even with, you know, men in domestic violence, men as victims in domestic violence. You know, you're supposed to be the provider, everybody's supposed to submit to you, but you're supposed to act as a slave owner, but then you can't hit your slave, which is the mentality we tend to teach them.
Oof.
Right? And so, but you know, when you're small and somebody hits you, you hit them back. So we automatically teach them violence is the answer, and then when they get to a certain age, then we lock them up, right? And so when they feel that they're in a safe space or they need to have control, then it gets into them as perpetrators, and then they then start to become victims, because there's always going to be somebody stronger than you, right? And unfortunately, one of the things that, you know, I think that even at the coalition we don't pay enough attention to, or we don't mention enough, is that domestic violence is not just intimate partners. It's family members.
Yes.
All right.
Right? So when the cousins them beating up one another, or the aunt and the uncle, and the grandmother and the grandfather and the grandchildren, you know, mother and father, all of that is domestic violence. But we don't talk about relationship. You know, we always focus on the intimate partner violence part of it. And a lot of the intimate partner violence lessons get learned from inside the family, which is where we need to really start having some major discussions about.
Yes, and know that if there are children in the home, it doesn't matter if they can hear the words or if they see you fight.
Mm-hmm.
They know, they can feel the tension in the house. They're being exposed to this as a way of being in relationship.
Right. You know.
Yeah, and it's traumatizing them, and then we're raising them up and expecting them to be
Different.
good citizens
Right.
and do different.
Right, and sometimes even it becomes a behavior pattern that they now use as a tactic, right? And in not only in their personal life, but in their business life, you know. And then it gets into our community, and then it becomes a money-making thing, because if I can bully you, then I can make more money. And then it gets into all the gangs and how power and control starts to take over absolutely everything. So we really need to go back to having the conversations and listening to hear, not listening to respond, you know. And, you know, please, the children should be seen and not heard thing. Ain't no child ever listen to you.
No.
You know, they're gonna watch your behavior. You know what I mean? We did it. We shouldn't lie about it. We did it. They told us don't touch the stove, and we were hungry, so we went to the stove. You know what I mean? And because we will do what we see you do. Children will do what they see you do. And we do this in our society. And so it's a matter of us being true to yourself, you know? And I'll say this because I know it's nearly time for us to go. But weakness is not something that you should be ashamed of. If you don't know something, you don't know something, right? And not knowing it just means it gives you the opportunity to learn it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so you understand that your strengths are the things that maintain you, but your weaknesses are the things that enhance you.
And your curiosity builds character and puts more of those things where you need them to be. I always like to say that if I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room.
Amen.
Because I want to learn. It's the only way to continue to thrive. We're almost at the end of our show. I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and also to thank you personally, because this will be my last episode as a co-host. I will be leaving the coalition as of June 13th. So I want to thank you as a community for making my experience here as a community activist and as a coalition baby such an enriching one. I thank you so much for joining us. I thank all my co-workers and everyone. Thank you so much. And just remember that we cannot even spell community without you and I. So thank you for joining us on Let's Talk with Sheelene and Liz, two of the most amazing people on the planet. Yeah, I said it. And Will Smith. Yeah, I
Yes,
said it.
thank you, Will.
His name is Will
Thank
Smith,
you,
by the way.
Debbie.
So we have like a couple of minutes to let them say something?
Yeah.
Yes, if you want to do parting words.
I want to say thank you to Debbie in particular, because this was kind of her idea brought to us and allowing us to make this happen, and you will be missed in that position. Yes,
You will be, definitely. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen now, because, you know, Debbie's my brain in a lot of things, you know, but to the community that has embraced the work that she did as communication coordinator as well. She did an amazing job.
Yes.
Clemma, you know, just so that y'all know, Clemma's not on island, you know, she had to leave, and so she's not here.
Send
But
her love and
we
prayers.
send her love, a lot of love to you, Clemma.
Yes.
Thank you for, you know, being the executive director, and we got your back, we're supporting you. But Debbie has done an amazing job over the nearly 20 years that she was with us. Woo.
September will make 17 years.
Yes,
Wow.
you know, so she wasn't joking when she said she was a coalition baby. She a whole teenager now. You know? But you know, we do love you. We appreciate you and all the people at the home house at the WC. And to the community, thank you for being our support. I have to say this, y'all were absolutely amazing at the women's race. Thank you for coming out. It was so hot. Half of us felt sick because of the heat, but you came out and you did the race. 216 of you, those of you in Peru and Mexico that ran with us, the team from Arizona and California. You know, we had people in Texas, we had the Ohio, New York, Florida, DC. You know, thank yous, and those on the Rock City, thank you so much for making it an amazing success. It's 40 years next year, so we hope to see you all out for that as well.
It's gonna be big, it's gonna
Yes.
be big. Yes,
Thank
and
you so much.
Thank you, Clemma, thank you, Carolyn, thank you, Mary, for allowing me to grow into this position, and for all that I was able to do as a result of your leadership. Thank you, everybody at the coalition, and we are out.
Peace out.
Deuces.
Good timing, good timing. Don't go on. It's not talking to you? Tell you he doesn't talk to you. Talk to her.
Ladies, that was wonderful.
Thank
I
you.
love hearing y'all talk. Even if I am doing other things back there. I mean, it is, especially, I mean, the longer I live here, the more I'm like, these are words that keep me.
How do we, there's not a button here.
See it?
Share?
Yes.
Share on. This is interesting.
The top and the top. Well, this will close it.
Yes.
The button, the 3 buttons down to the bottom by what a water bottle is.
Yeah. And then,
Something more should be coming up there. No. Okay, maybe if we turn it.
yeah.
True.
Oh. Rotate device back.
But you saw it had a little thingy button.
Okay. Oh, that's done. Okay, so save highlight.
What is happening here? This doesn't happen. Usually it's just something that says share and that's
They
it.
have shared right there in the
Share
middle.
is right
No, but
here.
it's to share in other places.
Right. Let's do more.
That is weird.
No, that's not what you want.
No.
What if we just go ahead and hit share and then we copy the link, right? So now the link's copied at least, and then we close it.
Okay.
Make sure you want to stop streaming.